What's up? What's up? I'm Dr. Omatma, host of Egg Meet Sperm, where we're busting fertility myths, sharing tangible tips for your fertility journey, and bringing you the most knowledgeable guests to support your journey to parenthood. This podcast is for both women and men because getting fertile as fuck is for both partners, don't you think? Remember, just listening to this podcast won't get you pregnant, but following the tips we share just may. Let's get you fertile AF so that you can co-create the family you dream of. And if your partner's not listening to this, make sure to share this episode with your partner. Hello and welcome to Egg Meet Sperm. Our host today is Ali Prato. She is a very unique interview for us because she is a journalist, an infertility warrior, a mom of two, and the co-founder of Fertility Rally, a 24/7 community that provides support to anyone who is in their family building journey. She is also the creator and host of Infertile AF, the award-winning podcast about family building through ART. I am so excited to talk to you today, Ali. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you as well. Thank you. Thank you. You have such a good podcast voice.
Thank you. It must be the fancy microphone.
It is.
So tell me a little bit about what inspired all of this, because I know that your background is in journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are, like, going through this journey that is often so traumatic.
Absolutely.
And you, like, turned it into this beautiful gift that you give the world. Tell us about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I never thought I would be here, to be totally honest with you. I started my career in magazines. I was a magazine editor for 20 years. I have a journalism background, and I've always written about entertainment and celebrities and music and things like that. So this is quite the pivot, but it all kind of makes sense when you look at the big picture. You know, when I was 34, I got pregnant with my daughter, who is now almost 13. I'm giving away my age, but and I had her with no issues. You know, my husband and I had been together since high school, but we decided to have kids a little bit later because when we were about 30, we both moved from Chicago to New York and started kind of a whole new life and a different career path. And we just weren't ready to have kids. We could barely figure out the subway system. So we were like, we can't bring a kid into this world. So we didn't have kids until, a couple of years later. Thankfully, I did get pregnant pretty easily with my daughter and had an uneventful pregnancy. She was breech and I had placenta previa. So I did have to have a scheduled C-section, but thankfully that went well. She's healthy. Everything was great. We didn't start thinking about baby number 2 for a couple more years. Cause again, it was like, we have this newborn, we have this toddler, we can't have another kid. And I'll tell you, I knew nothing about infertility or fertility. I've talked to probably thousands of people at this point about sex education and what we learn when we're growing up. And what I had learned was you get pregnant. If you don't use protection, it's pretty easy. Be careful. And that was my experience. We stopped using protection. I did get pregnant pretty easily. And so I thought for number 2, it was going to be the same thing. And little did I know that now I was over the age of 35 when I started trying for baby number 2, and it didn't work. It wasn't working. I had what I later found out was poor egg quality or diminished ovarian reserve because of my age. There's, as I'm sure you well know, after the age of 35, it's been documented that your egg quality kind of plummets. And I didn't know that. I had no idea. So what happened, and I'll just give you the brief, my story. I ended up having 4 losses, 4 miscarriages after my daughter, back to back to back to back. And I finally went and saw a reproductive endocrinologist. And he said, yeah, you are old. And that's why your eggs, he was nice about it. He didn't say it in those blunt terms, but basically it was yeah, you don't have a problem getting pregnant, but you're having a problem staying pregnant because these eggs are not good quality. Your body's actually doing what it should be doing. It's getting rid of these unhealthy pregnancies. And he told me you're the perfect candidate for IVF because I did have a decent amount of eggs. It was just a matter of finding the healthy ones. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up going, I did 2 IUIs, neither of them worked. And then I went right into IVF. And again, I literally knew nothing about IVF. I thought it was for people that wanted to have multiple children. I thought it was an optional thing. I thought it was a guarantee. I thought it was for Octomom. You know what I mean? Like, and I say this because I was so, looking back and knowing what I know now, I'm so embarrassed that I was just so clueless about it and ignorant, to be honest. But it was like, how do you know this unless you're in the world? I didn't have any friends who had done it, or if I did, they certainly weren't talking about it. So I kind of went into this blindly. And fortunately, I mean, we are so, so, so lucky that I did have, at the end of the day, after all we were only doing one IVF cycle. That was all we could afford. And we had agreed that, that was all we were going to do. I only had one healthy PGT tested embryo. And we did the transfer. We did a frozen embryo transfer in 2015, and the transfer did work. And I did, have a successful pregnancy. And I have a son who's now 6.5 through that IVF cycle. But I know how rare it is for that to work on the first cycle. I mean, I have, Fertility Rally members in the hundreds, and most of them have gone through 4, 5, 6, IVF cycles, transfers. So I know now that we just got very, very, very lucky with our one. So point being, when I was going through it, I didn't have a community. I wasn't on Instagram talking about this. This was 7, 8 years ago now that I was kind of in the midst of it. There weren't that many books. There certainly weren't any podcasts talking about it. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why is no one talking about this? I remember going to Barnes and Noble looking for books on miscarriage, and there was like a 1-inch thick section about miscarriage, and that was it. And I was like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
So flash forwarding, my son was here. Our family building was complete. I was able to kind of think, all right, how can I turn this into a positive? How can I use my skills as a journalist? And I thought, I'm going to write a book. The book proposal didn't go anywhere because publishers were like, nobody wants to read about this stuff. Infertility is not going to make any money for us. They bluntly did say that. Thankfully, it's changed now, but a lot of people have self-published books. They still don't sell very well, to be honest with you, sadly. But then I thought, okay, I'm going to start a podcast because I don't need someone to greenlight that for me. I can just do it on my own. So that's where Infertile AF was born in 2019, 184 episodes into it now. And it's been great. It's just been sharing stories with people all over the world, all different circumstances, from, people who are infertile to same-sex couples, single parents by choice, childless not by choice. We cover everything, and it's just been great. So that was a long-winded answer. Sorry, but there we go. Here we are.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. First of all, what an incredible journey that you have been on. And I feel like a lot of what you said is resonant, because we do learn very little of our own reproduction in school, right? Like, most kids are taught, if you have sex, you will get pregnant.
Yeah, 100%.
And the safest way to not get pregnant is never have sex.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It works when you're 15, but we get no more education after that point. So there's a little bit of a discord between what's actually happening and what we're being taught in schools, in colleges, etc. So absolutely, this gap of how do we wrap our heads around the fact that there's only a 20% chance in every given cycle, in any 28-day cycle, there's a 20% chance of getting pregnant on specific cycle days.
Right.
Right. So the chances are really, really low, even to start out, and then add on top of it other things that could be going on that definitely impact egg quality. So there are a few things that I think are really intriguing. I think this idea that our fertility is just on a cliff and drops off at 35, maybe.
I know
that's the
it's not so black and white. It's not so black and white. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But it kind of, speaking to what you said, is the overwhelming message is that. And now I literally have talked to 30-year-olds that are being told they're too old, their eggs are too old. And I'm like, well, you're 30. You're not even 35 yet. So no, let's not stop there. There has to be some other explanation here. So yes, the age decline, the egg quality, all of those are really important components, but really that ability to step into this journey and really honestly know very little, even in medical school, I think our infertility class was like a whole week maybe that we spent on it.
At least you had a week though, That's
but
like
it was
so much more than most other people.
The same. It was like, here are the stats. It doesn't look very good after 35. Like there was just so little. I am still blown away at the fact that I ended up in this field doing what I do, because I didn't learn any of this in school, right?
Right.
And it was really like my own journey and my own like being at that precipice and being like, oh crap, will I ever have children? Because I'm getting really close to 35 and freaking out. And then like deep diving into research to like come out on the other side with like, okay, maybe there's still hope for me. And unfortunately, like not so many people have this experience. So I imagine that going through your own experience and now like hundreds of women that you have supported on this journey, are there themes that come up? Are there things that you're like, absolutely, if we could just do XYZ, then we would maybe have different outcomes? Or
yeah, I mean, I think the first theme is what you were just talking about, is just education, just knowing what's going on in your own body. I mean, there's so not only just the how to get pregnant, but just about hormones and thyroid and, environmental toxins and how that can affect things. Like there's just so much out there that, can affect fertility that is just never taught to us. So I think that would be the first theme that I see with so many people that I talk to, is people commonly are like, I had no idea. And I'm like, it's me either, clearly, that's why we're here. The other theme is just, blasting these stigmas. And, thankfully, I do feel like, and you've probably noticed this too, in the last couple of years, it has been talked about a lot more, and not with just, celebrities or people who are in the public eye, but just people. I've had people come up to me at like a high school reunion, for example, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been listening to your podcast. I went through that. Thank you so much for talking. People are come out of, once you like open that door, people come out of the woodwork and are like, that happened to me. That happened to my sister. That happened to my mom. It's so common. And I just want people out there to know that if they're going through something, they're not alone. There's so many other people out there who have been through it or can help you. So those, I think, would be the two themes that I've noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great because it is isolating and it's bizarre. You were saying this earlier. It's like no one talks about it. And it's like, it's getting better. I've been in this field for 12 years.
Yeah.
When I started, it was like non-existent. There was maybe 3 doctors.
God, like 12 years ago, it was like crickets, right? There's nobody.
Nobody.
You're like a pioneer.
There was literally, like, I did massive Google searches. I was like, who is like a colleague of mine that is doing this work? And I found 2 other people. That's it.
Okay.
2 people
Are they
in the
still
entire
in
country. Yeah, they're still in it. But it's like really rare. And it's unfortunate because I feel like it can be a magical time, and the magic is sometimes like blanketed over by some degree of unclarity, fear, hopelessness, right? Like all of these words that I could use to like describe what most women experience in this process. And so much of it can be relieved by just knowing like what's happening with my body, what's happening with my hormones, when do I actually ovulate, right? Like really basic questions that if we knew the answer to, we would have a different experience.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said one of the themes is knowledge, and then the other theme was community and really like knowing that you're not alone. So let's break this down. So what have you seen happen when people have community? What is the outcome of that?
Yeah. Well, I realized, I guess that was part of the reason I started the podcast too, was because I wanted to connect to people. And even though I was finished building my family, I felt like I could at least help the people coming after me. And the underlying message is you are not alone. No matter what you're going through, you're not alone. So I always want to stress that in, every episode, no matter what. And that has, since kind of ballooned into this community fertility rally that I started with Blair Nelson, who was on my podcast. I think she was episode 8. She emailed me and wanted to share her story. And she and I just really connected in terms of wanting community. And we hatched this idea. This is in, back in end of 2019. And we're like, let's do an event in, celebrating this community of badasses. We had connected with a lot of people on Instagram at that point and become friends with people. And it's like, there's always that joke of like, I know what's going on with your ovaries, but I've never seen your legs, because all of our conversations are on Zoom. Like have these like relationships with people on Instagram or on Zoom, and you've never met them in person, but that's how incredible this community is and how bonded everyone is once you go through something like this. It's just an instant connection. So we started planning this in-person event. It was going to be in Brooklyn. It was going to be in October of 2020. And then we all know what happened in March of 2020, the world shut down. So we pivoted to a virtual format. We started throwing these events and kind of get-togethers, like support groups / happy hours with just, people in the community. And it really touched a nerve, and people were like, this is awesome. And then it literally, like by June of 2020, we had launched our Fertility Rally membership, which, as you said at the beginning, it's a community. We have 4 support groups per week that anybody can come on that's a member. We have 3 private Facebook groups, which I think helps because there's lots of Facebook groups out there, but these are like vetted and you really get to know the people in the groups. You can come in the group and ask questions or just vent or put a funny meme or, it's just like and all these people have become like best friends over the last 2 years. It's over 2 years now that we started this, and, we've got like over 400 members and we're growing every month. And it's just been this amazing resource. We have our call, we had one last night. So every Wednesday night is our flagship Fertility Rally support group call that Blair and I host. We have about 60 people on the call. Usually you can share or not share. You can be on camera, not on camera. You can bring your partner if you have one. People bring their dogs. It's just a safe space. It's not recorded. It's anything goes. We just encourage people to let out all the feels. And, there's a chat that's very active where people are asking questions and giving each other links. And I tried this supplement, and have you gone to this doctor? And, we've noticed that, a lot of our members have, just felt so much better to have this community behind them. And, people started meeting up on their own IRL. We've had a lot of members who've gone on to have healthy pregnancies and babies. I think we have 90 rally babies at this point. We send everybody a onesie that says, my mama rallied for me when they have their baby. It's kind of become something I never dreamed, and it's still growing, and it's who knows where it will go. I hope it keeps growing. Ideally, we'd love to have it be, like I always say, I want it to be the Weight Watchers of infertility. Like if you are having this problem, you join this group and you feel supported and you're there for as long as you need to be. And, it's just been really, really cool. And the bottom line is just, you don't have to do this alone, nor should you. It's too effing hard to do this alone. And it's too sad and it's too overwhelming. You need people who can answer your questions and hold your hand.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I think the power of community, right? And the power of like feeling not alone is really incredible and can be a healing force in and of itself. Yeah. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this, because what I've noticed is I had multiple times in my career where I was like, hey, let's do this group program. And people would literally be like, I'll pay you triple to not be in a group.
Oh, really?
And I was just like, why? Like, I don't get it. Why?
Yeah.
I want to make this like low cost, affordable thing.
Right.
That so many people can benefit from. And they're like, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
I mean, I think there are like maybe 2 camps of people that do thrive in like group environment, and then some people who are a little more private and love the one-on-one stuff. We certainly, as we've grown, we have had a couple members who are like, it's getting too big, like I'd rather do a one-on-one call. And that is one thing that we offer too, is we do one-on-one calls with people every Friday. We call it Rally-Vu calls. And, our members can sign up if they want, just to, a 15-minute conversation about whatever. Yeah. So that's another, thing that we provide. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, I'm very much a group person. I love group fitness. Yeah. I love these group calls. So but I can see why it's not for everybody. But thankfully, there is something out there for everybody. So if you're not a group person, there's so many tremendous coaches out there, and there's so many great other smaller groups, so I encourage people to go and look on Instagram. You can search by hashtag. People can DM me if they have questions at Infertile AF Stories. We can find people what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I am fascinated by this like group versus like one-on-one. And like some combination is what we've landed at is like, I think now what we do is like we have our groups, but they don't necessarily like publicly share all of their stuff. It's just like they can direct it to me. And that feels safer for people in some way.
Sure, I get
but
that.
I think it's still like the benefit of being in a group and feeling held while going through a process is just so beautiful and so crucial, I think, in so many ways.
I think so too. And, we've had people on our calls that after 3 months, they're finally like go on camera and they're like, I've been, lurking, listening, and off camera. And now I feel ready to share. And we're like, that's cool, or you don't ever have to share if you want to just listen while you're making dinner or while you're driving or, whatever. So I think you're right. Everybody responds to support differently. And, thankfully there's a lot of different ways out there that people can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other things that you have like realized or got like learned along your path that could help our listeners?
So much. I mean, I could probably go on and on, but I'll give you a couple of quick ones. One is that if you're not getting the care that you feel like you deserve, it doesn't have to be that way. There is really good care out there. If you feel like a number at your doctor's office or just a statistic, or you're going through a machine, or you never get to talk to your doctor, or you're being shuffled around, or you go to an appointment and they haven't read your file. And, like we've had people in our group who've said, I went to my 5th appointment with this guy and they were like, so tell me about what you've been through so far. And they're like, really? Like, do you remember me? Like, so I know a lot of clinics are bigger and don't have the bandwidth, I guess, to give that much one-on-one care. But I just want people to know out there that it doesn't have to be that way. There's so many great doctors and medical teams that really look at it as you're on a team with them, not like you're the patient, I'm the doctor, but they make an effort to make it, like a team vibe so that you feel really included, that you can come to them with suggestions or should I take this test or should I do this test? I think that it's really good when the medical team is receptive to your ideas and bringing in a list of questions and not feeling like rushing through it, giving you the time that you need. So I guess that's one of the first things that I've learned is like, if you're not happy with your care, maybe get a second opinion. A lot of people are doing second opinions virtually. I'm not saying you have to switch doctors or switch your clinics, but, just know that there is really, really good care out there. So if you have that gut feeling that you're not being well taken care of, you probably aren't being well taken care of and you deserve better. The second thing I think is just to advocate for yourself. You're your own best advocate. A lot of things, doing research, asking questions, going into a group and saying, I have this appointment. What should I ask? Just coming in armed with your own knowledge, coming in armed with questions, asking for things. I heard somebody did this Receptiva DX test, for example, that tests endometriosis. Should I be doing that? Like a lot of people that I know in this community have had success because they advocated for themselves. And it's not just with your medical team, it's with your workplace. If you're not getting good coverage, if you don't have coverage for fertility or infertility treatments, ask for it. We have examples on our website of letters you can write to your HR department to try to get coverage. We've had a lot of members that didn't have coverage that reached out and now they do, things like that. It's just like advocate. And there's a lot of ways to do it. And we can help people and point people in the right direction if they're not sure where to start.
Amazing. Yeah. I think that those are really awesome tips. And just like finding the right person to be on your team, following your intuition is what I heard, even though you didn't necessarily say it.
Totally.
But just like, does this feel right? Is this person the right person for me? They may be the most incredible doctor in the world, but if you don't feel like it's the right person, it's not the right person.
Yeah. We also always say like, they're working for you, right? You're paying them money. And you need to get out of this what you're paying for. This is not inexpensive, as we all well know. So, to try to get as much out of it as you can is really essential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this. I feel like I could talk to you for
I know. I
so
love
much wisdom here. So for those of you listening in, if you don't know Fertility Rally, please look them up. Join the community.
Yeah, everybody's welcome. Check us out. DM me if you have any questions about our different memberships. We have a military membership. We've got lots of things.
Awesome. And you can check out Ali's podcast, Infertile AF. Amazing. Is there any last thoughts that you would like to share?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, if anybody is like in the weeds right now, feeling really terrible, having a hard time, like feel free to reach out to me at any time. My DMs are open. I've been there. I get it. It's so hard. It's not fair. This affects everything. This can affect your friendships. It can affect your relationship if you're in one. I've been really open about how my marriage really suffered when we were in the thick of it. We were at a point where we're like, are we done? Like, is this going to break us up? Like, it was really, really hard for us. Thankfully, we're still together, but it's not easy. And it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to not be okay. And it's also like, I'm not a fan of like toxic positivity. So if people are like, don't give up, or you can do it, I feel like I don't like the term giving up, but if you're in this journey and you feel like you're done, then that's okay too.
It's okay to be done.
People don't talk about that enough. It's like, you don't have to always end up with a baby at the end of this. If your mental health is taking a toll, or if at the end of the day, you're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, that's totally okay too. So I want people to know that, because I think oftentimes the message is sent out there where it's like, you can do it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And sometimes it's like, no, it's actually not. And that's okay. And I have so many people that have been on my podcast or that I've become friends with who made that pivot and are, childless, not by choice, or child free and loving it. There's a whole community of that out there too. So if that's your path, and you want to be connected to people, I can connect you to those people as well, if anybody's listening. But it's just, it's hard and it's sad and it's not fair. And my heart goes out to anybody that's hurting right now. I get emotional. Like, it's still PTSD. I know how hard it is. It sucks. But you're not alone. Yes.
It sucks, but you're not alone. And it's okay for you to be wherever it is that you are in this moment. Like, there's no judgment. There's no...
Right.
It doesn't need to be different than what it is. But if you are on this journey and are looking for support, there's lots of ways to get support.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much.
For being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Was that an amazing episode or what? Make sure to check our show notes so that you can link up with our guests. And if you're not a part of our secret Fertile AF community, you can join for free via the link in our show notes. Last but not least, have you showed us some love lately? It would mean the world to us if you could share and review our podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Egg Meets Sperm. Peace.